But can I speak on that?
You better.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
You know.
He said this is okay.
Better say something nice, though.
Here's my fucking point. Will Howard speak on it? No way, Jack.
I'm not going to.
No way.
You know what?
Because he's an asshole.
No, don't say it. I'm not going to embarrass.
I'm saying it.
I'm not going to embarrass myself and ask him.
How crazy? Okay.
And you know,
17 fucking years on the show. Case in point, dickheads who give me shit on Twitter. This is not Jackie talking. I'm mad at him. 17 years he helped create the fucking show. He gets rid of when he asks for money. I know you won't sit down for 20 minutes and talk.
Artie,
whatever.
You can't yell him because I didn't ask him.
You're not.
I didn't ask him.
And not the fact.
But it'd be really funny.
The fact that you're afraid to ask him is crazy.
No, I'm not afraid to.
You said you're afraid to look like an asshole because you don't want to look like a jerk.
Well, I just don't want him to say
that's fear. Because you know he's gonna say no.
But if I don't ask him, all he had to do was ask.
No, you know what, Jack? I'm mad for you, man. I love you. And I know you're. This is not you talking, but you know who else ain't gonna with the new regime over there with that red-haired cunt is Robin ain't gonna say yes because she's afraid. Neither will Freddie because he's afraid. Nobody will. Nobody over there will give you the decency to give you what you deserve. A couple of minutes of his fucking time.
No, but, you know,
the guy who made my show hilarious for 17 years. And think about that. You know the dynamic. I didn't want to ask for my second book came out, similar to you. They paid me a lot of money for the second book because the first one did so well. And they said, look, we want to advertise on Howard. I said, don't ask, I'll ask. But I didn't want to because I knew they were going to say no. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction.
That's exactly.
But that's on him, not you. So anyway, I say, okay, they were paying me so much money. I said, I'll do you the decency of asking. I ask Gary, goes, let me ask him, calls back the next day, and the smug fucking voice goes, it just isn't going to happen. I'm like, okay, it just ain't going to happen. Great, thank you. Bye. I didn't want to keep talking because I would have fucking driven there and hit him with a bat. Okay? So after that happens, they called me up 2 weeks later and go, oh, we've never seen this before. I go, what? He goes, we tried to buy airtime. They wouldn't take our money.
You know what?
We've never seen that before.
Staggering.
Because a commercial he didn't have to read. He wouldn't even have heard the commercial.
So it's totally removed from the show.
It's capitalism. They wouldn't take me. This is the first person on radio never took our money.
Boy.
I mean, so what did I do? What did Jackie do so wrong?
Not to make a Jewish joke, but holy Christ, is that Sophie's choice?
He wrote the foreword for my fucking book. He let me put his name on the cover. Howard did me favors he never did anybody else. Howard owes me nothing. And that book was like, I just didn't want to hear him say no because it hurt me. I'm mad for Jackie.
No, but
I'm mad for Jackie. Why can't he sit there?
Wait a minute. He didn't. First of all, he didn't say no yet. I got to come. When I went there and said, I'm doing a joke book for Simon & Schuster, and they asked me if you would do the forward, and he said yes before I finished the question.
That's
and he
great.
wrote a magnificent forward.
The forward he wrote for me, too, is unbelievable.
So,
him being in that documentary is a big deal.
Yeah, but,
But you know what, Jack? You know what? I'm going to give you some advice here. Ask him. I didn't think you had that much confidence in him saying yes. So you're on the fence. So if you think it's 50-50, if you think it's 50-50, you have to ask him because it's a bigger look. You got to give the guy props. He's the biggest fucking name ever.
Yeah, he's the biggest star anyway.
And you helped that show. The show's going to be a big part of it. You should ask him. If Howard wanted to do the right thing, the day he retires, I would drive to Fred Norris's house, give him an envelope with a check for $50 million in it, and say thank you. I would do the same with Jackie. I would give Robin 20 because I think she made a lot of money. And quite frankly, the African Americans don't need as much. And no, she would get about 20.
She's going to buy a swimming pool.
Anyway, I would give her less because I think she made money. And Gary would get about 30 mil. I'm not kidding. It's like he's a billionaire, and you guys created that show with him. He's amazing. Alone, it would have been a hit, but I'm not kidding you because it's even taxable. I would give Jackie and Fred $50 million in an envelope and say, "Thanks, guys."
I was always so crazy about me asking for the raise because if they had given me the money I wanted, that's all tax.
That's why I'm right. I'm going to die a broke guinea because of that attitude. But come on, man. I don't care anymore. You know, he did a lot of good things, but he's undoing it with this red-haired cunt. Who is this red-haired cunt? Marcy Turk is her name. I call her red-haired cunt. She's involved with this book called Getting Things Done. And Howard, he was always
where did that come from? Is that something you heard of?
Howard was always about organizing, and I think he didn't love the part of the show that was, you know, maybe some of my stand-up gigs and some stuff that Ronnie started doing and on the road that represented the Howard Stern show. He thought that was something that stopped him from getting great guests.
And maybe he didn't want to be the bad guy to say, this can't go on.
Absolutely. That's such a great point. Absolutely. And that's how he is. He would do that with phone callers. His dynamic was, if he hated you and was mad, he'd say, I don't know, I liked you last night on Conan, but this guy in Brooklyn doesn't. You know, like that type of thing. He's passive-aggressive. I would tell Gary, kissing his ass the way you do, a guy like that doesn't like you more. They hate you. They have no respect for you. You become a suck ass. You don't have to do that. You're valuable to the show.
It's like eating too much candy. It's like,
well, exactly. And there's the fact that I think he wanted to look more, how can I put this? Presidential. Like the show should be regal. The way you know, the money it makes, and the people that I think you saw the Jimmy Kimmel's. I think Jimmy and his friendship had a lot to do with it. Jimmy's put on a tuxedo.
In other words, it's not the ragtag, ragamuffin.
Yes, but that humor he perfects. That's not dumb. Like what Jackie and I do, it's not dumb humor. It's still smart. If you're funny, it's smart. It's just about a different subject. Jimmy Kimmel's friendship with him, I think, had a lot to do with it. I love Jimmy. He's a great guy. But Jimmy was a guy that Howard saw as a fan of his. Jimmy was hosting the Emmys, hosting the Oscars, and Howard always saw himself as a guy who could have a talk show on ABC, but people were scared. And I think,
you know, the truth of it is,
I think he wants to be more like Jimmy Kimmel.
He was always a ball buster and the outsider and the guy taking shots at everybody. But the truth of it is that he wanted to be in the room with the Jennifer Aniston.
Such a good, another great point.
He had his nose up against the window pane the whole time.
Oh God, you hit the point on the.
And when he realized, wait, I could get in that room.
But all of us as fans thought differently. Here's where the betrayal comes with the fans. And he owes them nothing. I read an article about F. Scott Fitzgerald and Hunter Thompson, the two writers. Both were guys that came from nothing. Both guys wrote about the upper class that they were not a part of when they grew up. F. Scott Fitzgerald clearly got depressed because by writing about them, he became one of them, and he wanted to be one of them. Hunter S. Thompson wrote about them. When he had a chance to go into that fucking room, he shot it up. He was always the rebel. He was always the guy you thought he was. Howard always
Hunter Thompson kept the fuck you.
Yes, and he kept it real in a sense. Like, I'm always this guy. I don't want to be a part of you. He said to people like Sean Penn and Johnny Depp, you want to hang out with me? You got to come to my world. I ain't going to you. And they did. And they would have done the same for Howard. He could have been the one guy who made all this money and would have had fans more loyal and could have said, fuck you to political correctness. Instead, he broke that window down like Fitzgerald and Thompson, and he did the F. Scott Fitzgerald. He goes, no, I want to be at your wedding. I was always the nerd who wanted to be in the in crowd.
He put a certain amount of people on the table and pushed other people off the table.
And guess who doesn't belong in that room, Jack? Me, you, Benji, Freddie, and he abandoned all them and all his fans to go sit down with her, and that's when they felt betrayed. I thought he would have shot up the room. He sat at the room and said, fuck you. If you're not cool enough to be here, you're not allowed to talk to me, and the way I'm going to do that is hire this broad. So people who've been there for 30 years can't talk to Howard without permission from this cunt. There's a dress code in the fucking office. What happened to rock and roll? What happened to rock and roll? What happened to Harvest Moon?
When somebody said they can't wear T-shirts to be on the radio at 6 o'clock in the morning anymore, I was like, I really thought that was somebody was making a joke. You know, because we used to leave the Stern Show and walk into the Friars Club in T-shirts. But I was like, I didn't care who looked at us because we just came from the fucking trenches.
And
we just entertained millions of people.
The greatest thing is about the fact that the hierarchy, all the salesmen on one floor, and you guys, you know, not making a dime of what you guys make because they're conformists, coming down to your floor and you're dwarfing their income wearing a goddamn weed shirt. really think Jimmy Kimmel had a lot to do with it. I think he looked at Jimmy and saw a guy who deep down he doesn't think Jimmy's as funny as him. He doesn't think he thinks Jimmy rips him off, as a matter of fact. But he loves Jimmy because he's a good guy. And he goes, I should be hosting the Emmys. I could. And you know what? Howard's right. Why isn't he? Body judging. Fat shaming. I'm telling you right now, all the people he's sucking dick for right now, they're the ones who kept him away from the Emmys because he's a 6'5" guy who looks like a pelican. You guys were such rebels, and that's why I loved you guys. You used to say, Jack, you might even wrote this. You might have been the guy who said it. Drew Barrymore's life would be perfect if not for you guys. And you guys kept it with we had that. The guys I worked construction with put on, the day after the People's Choice Awards, we had someone who would say, that sucked. Play fucking clips of some idiot talking about the movie. And goofing on it.
And the mother and you.
Oh, come on. You were about the news. I wanted to listen, it's a great country because I said out loud working construction, guys, what I want to be is a comedian and one day go on the news with Jackie and maybe Gilbert as a guest and do the news on the Howard Stern show. And every comic of my generation who's worth anything has the same fucking opinion. Jeff Ross thinks that way, Attell, Norm Macdonald, and when I went in there with Norm, and I looked to my right, and I saw you and Freddie, and I saw Howard, and I said, I'm in show business. I was already in it for 5 years. I had been on network shows, sitcoms. By that time, honestly, I was a self-made millionaire from show business. I was very proud of that. But until I walked in and saw you guys, I said, now I'm here. And come on. We all thought he wanted to fucking get in that fucking room to say, fuck you, Aniston. And he wants to be there. And I think Jimmy and other people in his life had a lot to do with that. And Jack is so perceptive. The nose on the window thing, and he has to stand back forward for that nose.
I wasn't going near that.
I know, but I was.
This is the question for the ages.
Go ahead.
In the beginning,
yeah,
when he went on the radio and said, I want to be on the radio,
right,
was his goal to get in that room,
okay,
or at some point along the way did he all of a sudden realize, well, maybe he thought that was out of the wood?
Great question.
And all of a sudden at some point he said, wait, you know what?
Yeah,
I could get in that fucking room.
Yeah. Okay. I think from the beginning, deep down, and maybe he didn't even know it, subconscious, he wanted always to be in that room and be accepted because he wasn't in high school. He was the nerdy kid who was brilliant, and inside he knew he was brilliant but couldn't talk with the in crowd. And what the cast of Friends, that represents the in crowd of show business. Let's face it, they're the pretty people,
right,
who aren't
but he knew his only way, the only route was to be totally fucking outrageous and crazy. Because he's brilliant enough to know if he's a little outrageous.
And he's brilliant at that, too.
Right.
He's brilliant, and he hired the right people. Like, Trump has put together a cabinet. He put together a cabinet in the beginning. That's an analogy. You, secretary of jokes. Fred, secretary of sound effects. Even Rob, finding Robin is such a huge thing because she's brilliant, a great auditor, a great broadcaster, with a great storyteller, a great laugh, and a sense of humor. The fact that she was black did help you guys. It did help. It freed it up. It made it more of a rainbow coalition.
If it wasn't by design, it certainly appeared by design.
And it wasn't, though. That's the great thing. It was organic. He just said, look, this guy Jackie's obviously perfect, Fred. And then Gary fit in. Because not only could you go, and again, I'll give Gary props too, because I don't hate Gary either, but he was put in a terrible position. I'm actually mad for him as well. Gary found a guy with a skin so thick as his lips, but also could produce the show. He was talented enough to produce the biggest show and take constant fire from you guys.
Everybody was perfect at what they did.
Yeah, I know this. Gary, the entire time we were in Sirius, wanted a bigger office. He thought he needed more room. That never happened. Howard used to goof on the fact that he needed a bigger office. When Marcy got there, Marcy Tarek, when she got there, he gave her Gary's office and made it bigger. That's what I heard.
Oh my
If that's not an emasculating fuck off,
that
and then in front of everybody, in a board of people, Gary, for some reason, Gary begs for it. I can't believe this happened. And a bunch of people told me that, so it's true. Gary gets up and goes, Howard, is Marcy my boss? Howard said yes.
Oh, wow. I think he's a good guy, okay?
He's a great guy.
But I also think, and I really believe this, if somebody said to him, Howard, one of your stocks just went up and you just made $14 million this morning, And also somebody said, did you hear, Jackie tripped and broke his nose?
Right.
That news would make him happier than the 14. No, not Jackie broke his nose.
Right.
Jackie had a show, and there were only 3 people.
Absolutely.
The show business version of broke his nose.
Recently on the air, guys, he showed his true colors by giggling and saying, I hear a lot of the people who left my show are on the verge of a nervous breakdown. These were soldiers to him. He was giggling about that while he was goofing on Ben. He said to Benji on the air, I'm going to because I'm proud of this. He never mentioned Marcy on the air. He was forced to because of me. I kept talking about it. And he said to Benji, I'm going to let Marcy deal with you. Exactly your theory. He said it out loud. I don't want to fire you. I'm going to let Marcy fire you. And don't call up after the show and say, Artie, you're obsessed. I'm not. Jackie's here. We have the Stern Show in common. We're having a conversation a lot of people think is entertaining. I'm not obsessed. He's obsessed with me. I was there for a decade, and he doesn't bring up my name. It's like I didn't exist. That's calculated.
Your podcast and Gilbert's podcast and going on with
Gilbert's not allowed on. Gilbert's not allowed on.
I can't even do that.
People think he's the greatest guest of all time. Gary said to him, "We don't take comedians anymore," as he was booking a comedian.
Yeah, no. When I did Gilbert's podcast, he said he hadn't been on there in 4 years.
But Howard doesn't look at him on the. He met Howard on the street. Howard ignored him. What is that about?
Please.
Who's obsessed with who, guys? What is that fucking about?
So many people are going to tweet, they talked about Howard, they talked about, fuck them.
We're the only 2 people who had a job in show business. That's on the biggest radio show of all time. There's 2 people there. And I got news for you. It's only going to be 2. You ain't going to see Shuley in that chair. You understand? There's going to be one guy who's going to be a senator. That's not us.
But there is no chair anymore, right? The way the show is.
It sits
it
there.
Can't be,
I think Marcy Turk sits there.
Oh, good.
Guys, he's being led around by a broad.